with the set piece, goes for goal! Scores! Son delivers! LAFC have life!
There was a long build-up, the long wait. But Son had one thing on his mind. The execution had to be pinpointed. It had to be perfect to beat Takaoka from that distance. And the quality of this strike is everything LAFC needed in this moment. Massive moment for LAFC and Son Heung-min.
Courtesy of Apple TV and Major League Soccer, instant classic over the weekend. We'll get into all of that. We will get into the 3 of the 4 matchups that have already occurred to determine who's going to be in the conference finals next week in Major League Soccer. It'll be Messi and friends. We'll go deep into that matchup. We'll go into what happened at Subaru Park last night for the early game with, the late game with Philadelphia and with NYCFC. And we'll go over, obviously, what happened a very, very late night involving Vancouver and LAFC. And is it if you subscribe to Season Pass and you've got time, or if you're just working in the office, have it playing in the background, it's worth it. Instant classic. We'll go in depth into it. We'll hear from some of the principals in the match here as we go this morning. It's a Reaction Monday. John, here, you there. Thanks for dropping by for another go round of SDH AM. And in addition to that, we've got Abe Gordon dropping by. We'll go over the early returns in Major League Soccer with Abe coming up here in about 10 minutes, unless he shows up early. Then we'll bring him in early. Bart Keeler, SoccerForUSPod, is going to be joining us at 10 o'clock. We'll go over the NWSL final with Bart. Moment for Gotham as the 8th seed to come through, knocking off Washington Spirit along the way. There are questions about Trinity Rodman and how she is physically after what happened in the match with Gotham and Washington on the weekend. We'll go over Yanks abroad. We'll go over cards and calls. And I've got a philosophical question for Bart as well when it comes to when you're dealing with a team like a Philadelphia. Is there such a thing as whistle fatigue? And how do you handle it? So we'll get into that with Bart. And obviously, like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time this morning on the Major League Soccer playoffs and what happened last night. We'll get you ready for the rest of the day. We've got Monday Night Football. Soccer over there tonight is at 8 o'clock, and we will be joining you there discussing everything going on Premier League. There's Grip and Panic in Liverpool and Car 54, Where Are You? There's plenty of that this morning to get into as we go. And here's the rundown for the week as we know it right now. Tomorrow, this afternoon, we're going to be catching up with some folks on the tape side, and when we run them, it'll be at some point this week. Obviously, we're catching up with Jason Stevens this afternoon. We'll catch up with him about the new version of PSR and the cost controls in the Premier League and what he thinks about that. We're also going to be catching up with the host city committee in Toronto as we start our coverage of World Cup 2026. We're going to find out what it's like for them to start piecing their city together and be ready as the world drops by to find out what's going on at BMO Field. We're going to talk infrastructure. We're going to talk about prep. We're going to talk about dollars, talk about manpower, all the things. They start our series when it comes to catching up with each individual host city to let you know how they're going to handle it as well. It's transportation. It's all the things. We're going to have that interview for you. It should be tomorrow, but it will be this week. But it is going to be posted on a couple of different platforms as we go. So we're going to find out how Toronto's handling the World Cup. We're going to find out how everyone's reacting to the new financial rules that are supposed to be heading into the Premier League and all the things. So tomorrow, we're going to go into the college game a little bit more in depth than we are today. There were a lot of heavy seeded teams in the Division I tournament that were blown out. Catch up with Casey White as she leads into her holiday week. We'll catch up with her at 9:15 tomorrow. And then Maddie Cruz, we'll try and catch up with Maddie, considering what she saw on the NAIA side of things with Georgia Gwinnett College. Maddie is going to be kind of hard to handle, and we'll try to track her down either Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll talk colleges with her, talk MLS with her as well. Then on Wednesday, should be the same batch of folks. Should be Tyler leading off unless he's got Thanksgiving stuff. Dylan possibly, if he is the busiest man in show business. And then Nico Moreno is going to join us at 10:30 Wednesday because of normal Thursday stuff having to be pushed to Wednesday on one part, And then Friday on the other with our buddy Nico Moreno. We'll catch up with our friends from Major League Soccer on Friday at 10 o'clock. No show Thursday. We want you to spend time with your families, and we'll have content throughout the day that you can listen to as we go there. So that's the rundown for the week. It's going to be looking at Major League Soccer, looking at the colleges, catching up with college coaches also this week as well for the Red Clay Soccer Report presented and powered by our friends at NoFo Brewing. We have a lot of different schools and a lot of different teams here in the footprint that have made it to their next rounds when it comes to NCAA Division 2, 3, and the NAIA. And we've also got some folks that are part and parcel to the upsets that happened in Division 1. We'll catch up with that as well, and we'll roll through that this week. So college coaches drifting in and out, college interviews drifting in and out, Major League Soccer reviews and previews coming in and trying to get you squared away where that's concerned. Last game of the season in the NWSL, Yanks abroad, cards and calls, the whole thing this week, and that's where we are. But we always start off our Mondays with our best leadoff hitter, Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, and the Odyssey app. As always, Abe, how are you, sir, and how many miles did you clock this weekend?
Boy, the miles are not great right now. I have a hamstring injury that I'm dealing with. So we're still going to try and run on Thursday. But it may end up walking. I don't know what's going to happen on Thursday yet. So it's not a great situation.
Well, but I mean, you can try and maybe counteract the caloric intake on Thursday. Is that how this is going to? Is that why you're doing it on Thursday specifically?
Well, I mean, Thursday's the Thanksgiving Day half marathon.
That's right, the half marathon. That's right.
So we're still going to try and see how long the hamstring holds out, and then what sort of run walk situation I have to deal with through pain or pulled muscles or whatever's going on down there.
Okay, just checking. All right, so how long does it usually take you to do it when you're 100%? How long does it usually take?
Honestly, I was going to shoot for like an hour 45 this year. An hour 47, somewhere in there would have been a little, aggressive, feeling good about myself. But now I don't even know, like 2 hours, 10 minutes maybe would be like a good effort. Cause I'm not going to push it at all just because of the hamstring. I'm hoping I can still give like an easy run and it doesn't act up. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't even make it. I made it like 0.2 of a mile last week, and then I had problems. So we'll see.
Well, and you mentioned hamstrings, and this is almost like a karmic end to what happened this weekend involving Major League Soccer. It was the late game where Andre Blake for Philadelphia going up against NYC. There was a shot from NYC's own defensive half with about, I think it was 10 minutes into the second half. And somebody saw an opening. Andre Blake's off his line, and NYC is up 1-0. They think they've got house money. And so they launch it from basically center circle. Andre Blake makes a fantastic save to make sure that it stays 1-0. But at the same time, he does something to his hamstring. He's got to leave. And so they have 19-year-old Andrew Rick come into net. But Philadelphia did not get an equalizer, and as the home team in that breakdown, NYC, they were hamstrung, pardon the pun, not having their top scorer. NYC goes into Philly, comes out of there with a win. Philly goes home. Bradley Carnell, all of the plaudits and all of the awards and everything. Philly's not going to be around for the conference final. They lose 1-0 to NYC Nightside last night.
Yeah, look, and this is the problem. If you don't win the games when it matters, when it gets tight, I'm just not impressed by a regular season. And this goes for Philly this year. It goes for Supporter Shield winners every year, whether that's Miami or someone out west. It just doesn't seem to matter. And look, maybe some people feel like they like the table and they like how you finish first, you finish first. But here in the States, we have a playoff system. And if you don't get it done when it matters, then the season, I just can't. I don't. If it were Atlanta United, right? Mm-hmm. Like I just wouldn't feel justified. I don't feel great arguing. Yeah, but we had the best regular season. It just doesn't feel like a victory. I don't like claiming we were Supporter Shield. I like claiming MLS Cup champions. And I wonder how many teams you see kind of built around that with the mindset of kind of like Miami did this year. We're not going to win the Supporter Shield, and we don't necessarily care if we win Supporter Shield. We need to get to the playoffs healthy. We need to make sure we rest our guys, and we need to put on the sort of performance that they did put on, right? That's a team that looks like they're potential MLS Cup champions. A 4-0 win for Miami, a goal and then 3 assists for Messi, right? I mean, so look, great season for Philly, but at the end of the day, you fell short at home. And it's just something about NYCFC in the playoffs, right? They just seem to be a tough out year in, year out. We saw that recently in a series with Atlanta United the past couple of years. And look, if Blake is out, right, then they've had Rick in a couple of times. It's not like he's making his team debut in the second round of the playoffs. And so they should feel, obviously you want Blake, but they should feel relatively comfortable with him back there. He's seen quite a fair bit of action this year. And so they march forward, and it's just one of those things, maybe in a different format. If you had to win a series or it was aggregate, you could get back into it, just losing 1-0. But as it is, Philly, who locked up the Supporters Shield, 3 weeks before the end of the season, 3 games to go, they had it locked up. And they can watch the rest of the playoffs at home like everyone else.
Yep. You mentioned Messi and friends, and obviously we've got highlights and things that we'll get into in the second half hour. But, the questions were raised by some of our guests late last week. Miguel Gallardo specifically from Apple TV. He was wondering what that back line for Cincinnati was going to look like, and if they were going to be prepared for this Miami team. That and I know that we sit there and we have our slings and arrows, and we sit there and we poke fun and call them Messi and friends and everything like that. And the biggest storyline coming into this match last night was that Javier Mascherano had decided to sit Luis Suarez again, and it was Allende, Silvetti, and Messi that were a part of the attack up top, and not Luis Suarez. And there was more gnashing of teeth and wringing of hands over the system that Mascherano has put in, where he's going to try to press you out of the building now. He's going to try to have all these young dudes put pressure and make sure that your passes are perfect coming out of the back. And when you make a mistake, Miami pounces on it. They are clinical and they finish. And you don't need Luis Suarez and his 38-year-old legs or whatever they are to try to accomplish that. Happened against Nashville in match number 3 of that series. Happened again and again and again. You show up against Cincinnati, you pressure them at the back, and you end up with that one goal from Messi in the first half. But then you have 3 goals in 17 minutes, the 3 of Messi assists. And now everyone is wondering, it's like, this was Javier Mascherano, oh my God, So, no, Javier Mascherano deserves some huzzas and some plaudits, I believe, for this tactical change, or this personnel change, not a tactical change, but a personnel change, relying on his young kids and getting the results that you need in the postseason right now.
Well, I just think at Miami and what their weakness is and how you beat them. And I think they've are trying to attack and address what concerns them the most. And that's probably their back line, right? And so how do you protect your back line? How do you keep those guys from having to do too much? You never let anyone get into the attacking third. How do you do that? By forcing the issue up top. The problem comes if a team is competent enough to break that down and beat through the press. Now you've put yourself in multiple situations, probably odd numbers because they're so high. But to this point, we haven't seen a team, at least in the last couple of games here, able to do that. I think your concern comes what happens if a team is able to work their way up the field quickly and break through your press, a couple of flicks or a quick touch and find their way in. Now what happens, especially if you concede and go down? But look, I think Miami has always been a team, John, that is a great front-running team. I mean, if they can get on the board first, the pressure they can create off of that as you push yourself to try and get goals, as you get numbers forward, especially in that second half if you're trailing in a playoff situation where you need to tie, I think that creates some real issues. And you mentioned it. You're down 1-0. You try and get back into it, and all of a sudden you're down 4-0 and the game's over. I think they are, in my opinion, the most clinical team when given their opportunities because they have the most clinical player, or whether it's setting someone else up or when they're finishing on his own in Lionel Messi. And it's just so difficult to defend because he draws so much attention. He draws so many defenders, and he still finds a way to get the pass where it needs to be. And then it's normally, I won't call it easy, but not the most difficult finishes for a lot of his teammates because of that. But again, you just have to wonder if a team's got a dribbler or two or a maestro in the midfield that can pass and vision and long ball and touch and all that to get through that press, what sort of pressure it puts Miami under. But at the end of the day here for me, John, this is a team that, again, we may have the last month of the season been surprised that I can't believe they had games in hand all year. It felt like they were going to catch everyone and be the supporters' shield. They didn't get there. But they seem like they're playing their best soccer right now here in the playoffs. And again, I don't care about claiming supporter shield. If Messi never wins an MLS Cup, it feels like a failure.
Yep.
I don't mean like him coming over here and all that. I mean, from the Miami perspective of you brought this guy in to win championships. If he never wins an MLS Cup, it feels like the move was a failure from an on-field victory standpoint. And so I think this feels like the year for them, right? You've got the big boys out west who we thought might be one of the big boys. They got bounced. Mm-hmm. The 1 seed in the East, they got bounced. And so you're taking 4-0 victories. I guess what will they get? It's going to be, is going to be at home.
Yeah.
And so everything is falling into the Eastern Conference Finals in favor of Miami. They may even get some more help out west if they can get past NYCFC. Mm-hmm. I think we're all looking forward to an LAFC Inter Miami potential.
No, it's one and done. LAFC's out the door. They're done.
No, we were all kind of looking forward to that, and that's gone. The potential of that is gone. And we talked, I think it was a week ago, I said, hey, I know Vancouver, whatever, but like it just feels like LAFC is where they need to be, and at the end of the day, they could sit there and join Philly as well.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, LAFC and Philly, they get to sit and enjoy it. And we're going to get into the instant classic in a bit, but LAFC and Vancouver, there were so many folks that once again, I might just be because they don't get to watch Western Conference. MLS and everything, but I've got to first and foremost give Vancouver all of the credit on this planet and maybe a couple of other planets, considering how they had to navigate finishing 120 minutes down 2 men and the craziness that was attached to it, where first off, you get the second yellow, which creates a red, which means that Tristan Blackman will not be available for you in the Western Conference Final. Doesn't matter, who you're playing, where you're playing. You won't have Tristan Blackman. Then you were out of subs. Then you end up getting an injury that you can't sub. So you're down to 9, and you survive LAFC, and we'll play the Sonny free kick in just a little bit. But you have that moment. You have the lead. The lead drifts away a little bit. It's 2-1. You have that moment from Sonny. You're 2-2. You finish 120 minutes with 9 guys. And then PKs are PKs, and then it is what it is at that point. But no, instant classic to go late night Saturday, early Sunday morning as Vancouver moves on in front of just under 54,000 at BC Place.
Yeah, and the thing for me is when you get that late equalizer and a team feels like it heading into extra time, it feels like they lost what could have been. To compose in the few minutes that you have and recover. Because I think we all probably felt, once they got that 95th minute equalizer, I think we all they're going to score in like the first 2-3 minutes of extra time, and this thing's going to be over, right? Especially because of the number situation and everything else. I think to compose yourself in, I don't know, what is it, 5 minutes between the end of regulation and the start of the extra periods?
Yeah,
whatever it is, 3 minutes. I mean, to compose yourself and get back into it, to deliver in the penalty shootout as you needed. They had to make 4 or 5. They did. I mean, all props to Vancouver in this one. I think it would have been so understandable if they had folded in extra time. Just the mentality there to stay strong, really, really impressive. And look, we understand that the MLS, the season was what it was over the course of the year, right? And Vancouver, rightfully so, was up there with who was it? San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
But a lot of people, and myself included, thought because of the late moves, the moves at the window, that LAFC had maybe jumped them, even though they hadn't in the standings. And look, maybe home field, the season-long standings played a role here. This game's being played in Vancouver. I'm sure that certainly helped them a little bit, but really, really impressive to recover after conceding, because it just, I mean, we've all been there. Anyone who's played a sport before, especially if it's soccer, has been in we got 30 seconds left, just clear the ball, kick it out, just do whatever you can to hold on. We're all grasping and clutching, and somehow you just can't hold on. It's just so difficult to get back into it when you've probably been defending at that point for the better part of 20, hardcore defending for the better part of 25 minutes there. And then to have to go into, all right, now we're back into the mode where we need to try and find one while not conceding. Really impressive stuff. Really good composure there. I mean, I don't know about you, John. I was like, boy, they're going to score. I really thought LAFC was going to score immediately in extra time, and it just never came.
Yep, and it was just a crazy scene. So before you get out of here tonight, late night, so it's a 10 o'clock listing, so I think that means it's 10:12 Eastern. San Diego, prohibitive favorite on the minus side, hosting Minnesota United. San Diego, minus 161, 90-minute draws a plus 313. Minnesota United, a plus 373. What do you think?
I think I'll be asleep before this game kicks off. I honestly didn't even make it to the shootout for LAFC, and I went to bed. I saw that they had equalized. I saw the start of extra time, and then I at some point I woke up and I was watching on my phone. At some point I woke up and my phone was like, "Your event has ended." I was like, "Oh well, whoops, missed all that." I went to bed. Right, I just fell asleep while watching. Look, I think San Diego's the one team, and obviously Vancouver's going to get a little bit of highlight and credit here for taking out LAFC, but San Diego's been this team all year long. And I remember in the early stages of the season, we were kind of like, boy, look at this team go, and kind of expected them to fade over the course of the year, just in the Supporter Shield standings and the Western Conference standings, and thought, all right, they're off to a hot start. We've seen hot starts before. It'll fade as more teams figure out what they're doing and the season rolls on, and it really never did. And so I'm excited to see if that holds. We've already seen one number one seed go home in this round of the playoffs, or I guess stay home after a loss. So we'll check out what they've got. But I mean, they have got to be equally favorites now that Philly's out, now that LAFC is out. I mean, them and Miami are probably the two teams, and Minnesota's got a chance to. I mean, this would probably be a little bit more shocking to me than LAFC going home would be San Diego going home. So
yeah. Minnesota on the road is basically the same as they are from home. 8-3-6 in the regular season away from home this year. San Diego, surprisingly, 7-5-5 away at the Murph Dragon this year, where they're 12-4-1 away from home. Pressures of home, 7-5-5. So maybe that 90-minute draw to plus 313 would be something to stare at, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I wish it were earlier, because there's not much I enjoy more than a penalty shootout. Like, I really love the mechanics of it. I love, because it's just ultimate pressure. It's ultimate mind games. Like, it's an ultimate moment. You just don't get those in the flow of a soccer game, and maybe in a free kick like we saw from LAFC in that moment there. It's not quite a penalty kick, but you still have the do or die, you have to score here sort of thing. But if there's a penalty shootout, it's going to be at 1 a.m. And so I'll miss it again. So it's as much as I would like to say, yeah, do that and go to overtime, extra time, and then go to a shootout from there. I won't see it. So at that point, just do whatever you want during the flow of the game.
You'll catch the highlights on the flip side. As always, my friend, it's great to start our weeks with you and get your thoughts on what happened on the week that was. May the hamstrings behave. May your time be solid on Thursday, and may there be plenty of good turkey sandwiches on the flip side for you to get all of the nourishment back. It's great to see you, my friend. Just be safe, have fun, and enjoy the gobble gobble on your Thursday.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just also want to give a shout out to my boys over there in North London, Arsenal, getting the job done over the weekend too. So very happy about that.
Yes, Eberechi Eze. I did not have him in fantasy, and I should have captained him and doubled him as well going up against Spurs. Good to see you, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
Yeah, have a good Thanksgiving, John.
All right, there goes Abe. All right, so Abe Gordon with all of his thoughts to wrap up his weekend and get ready for the half marathon coming up on Thursday. All right, so he went through all of the action that happened on the weekend, and we have that one match. That is happening late tonight. Morning, Jordan. Morning, David. Morning, Bart. Bart's going to join us at the top of the hour to talk things and probably a little Arsenal. And so morning to the three of you and everybody else that's hanging out with us here this morning on a holiday week. Let's go back and recap what happened through the eyes and ears of Major League Soccer and our friends at Apple TV and all the other places as we go. So let's take the NYC match. We'll get that one in because the other two matches are going to take some time. So NYC and Philadelphia. And like I said, I have a question for Bart about Philly and whistle fatigue. And so we'll get into that as we go. So the late game yesterday. So I guess we're building backward for those of you that might have missed it. In the first half, NYC and Philadelphia, you were wondering with NYC, with injuries and folks that were out with suspension, how they were going to react to being in that building. Took them a little while to kind of get things squared away, but in the 27th minute, you end up with a goal on the board for the visitors. Danny Higginbotham, Steve Cangelosi on the call. Here is the goal that ended up being the goal of the match for NYC in their win over Philadelphia Union. Once again, here's Danny and Kanji and Danny on the call, courtesy of our friends at Apple TV and Major League Soccer.
Second chance to get on the loose ball, and instead taken here by Gray. Sends New York City in transition. Ojeda cuts it inside on Macanya. Well done. Fernandez Macau plays it ahead. Shot, goal! It's a 1-0 New York City lead. Maxi Morales, he's done it again. 4 goals in 4 career playoff games versus the Philadelphia Union. And look who's on top. The visitors strike in this first half. New York City.
We said that NYC had settled, and my have they settled, because now you watch, it's all about the movement. You look at Ojeda, all of a sudden Wagner's been dragged out. Now because Ojeda goes into space, then Macanya, he gets done. Macanya's now out of the middle. So all of a sudden the back four is all over the place, and it's a wonderful finish from Morales. But what about a ball from Fernandez Macau? What an outstanding ball, and that is all about that false 9 position. Both centre-backs dragged out of the game. Glesnes has to go to Fernandez Macau. That leaves a space in behind for Morales, and just like fine wine, he is maturing and getting better with age. And NYC...
38-year-old Maxi Morales, and there I'm sure are plenty of one-liners that you could bring in. But we thought that with the absences that NYCFC had, a lot of it was going to fall to Maxi Morales, whether it was going to be he was going to be the individual shooting the ball on frame, or being the guy that was going to be making sure that everyone else was in the right places so you could get those shots on target. Maxi Morales scores. It ends up being the only goal of the match, and it would be a 1-0 win for NYCFC. Tail of the tape, shots 20-6 for Philly. And a lot of that was Philly, once again, when they were trailing, trying to sit there and come up with an equalizer, and NYC trying to make sure that that their edges were as locked in as humanly possible, and that nothing was going to be an easy passing. Like, there were a couple of shots where late Matt Freese, I think, had to make a double save at the near post, and it kept the game 1-0. 20-6 in shots, 5 shots on target for Philadelphia, 4 for NYC, 5 blocks for Philadelphia along the way. Passing accuracy, Philly, once again, they don't really care. It's about 73.5%. And for NYC, 79%. 11 corners, 8 to Philly. 14 crosses, 12 to Philly. 4 offside, 3 to NYC. 5 saves for Matt Freese. 3 for a combination of Andre Blake and Andrew Rick. And then clearances, 16 clearances for NYC in that match. Only 1 for Philadelphia. 27 fouls called in the match, 18 of those on Philly. 5 yellow cards. And this once again, when you have and this is probably going to be yet another conversation point with Bart when he wanders in. You have 9 fouls called on NYC, 4 of those resulting in yellow cards. 18 fouls for Philadelphia, 1 of those resulting in a yellow card. So the disparity of percentages, basically 1 yellow and 18 fouls compared to 4 in 9 in that particular matchup. And so you end up with that being the difference. The 1 goal, Maxi Morales scoring in the 27th, and that would be the rundown. 1-0 your final, and NYC advances. And once again, we mentioned that NYC is going to be on the road. Guido Gonzalez Jr. was the man in the middle last night for that one. Nick Uranga, Ian McKay, and Malik Badawi was your 4th. Fotis Bazakis was your VAR, and Craig Lowry was your AVAR. There was one moment in the match that required a look by VAR, at least that it went to VAR, whether it required a look or not. It was a handball that was called on NYC inside the 18. If you slow down the video, literally, I mean, yes, Philadelphia is raising all their hands and wanting it to be looked at by VAR. It was, but it was more off the chest and off of the intersection of the arm than it was anything. So under no circumstance should it have been called a handball inside the 18, despite the protestations of the home side. And that, I think, was really the only VAR challenge in that match. Fotis Bazakis looked at it, called it, no handball, and so nothing inside the 18, no PK or anything like that. So 1-0 the final as NYC advances. But yes, the idea of 4 yellows on 9 fouls versus 1 in 18, this kind of goes into the whole whistle fatigue thing. So we'll get into that coming up in a bit. Now, the early match was the one that we were discussing with Abe a little bit more in depth than Vancouver and LA. Like, we're building to the instant classic as we go. It was once again Miami, and this is where you get into the conversation once again about Javier Mascherano. Yes, this season, Javier Mascherano had not coached on the club level. Yes, Javier Mascherano has a roster that has the Gulfstream Galacticos on it. Yes, it has Lionel Messi, Sergi Busquets, Jordi Alba, Rodrigo de Paul now, and all of that star power that is associated with it. And everyone at the beginning of the season was wondering how it was going to be handled and how it was going to be, what it was going to be like for this first-time club manager going, with this roster and all the expectations that are attached to it. And then you have late in the year, match 3 against Nashville, he pulls Luis Suarez out of the lineup and goes with youth. And we saw, and we now have seen for 2 matches in a row, where Messi and friends want to put you in the 8th circle of hell when it comes to defense. Their pressure, once again, their speed in the attack, and making sure that you are on your heels and they can continue to push and have the opportunities that they're looking for in a matchup. Happened in Game 3 against Nashville, happened in this matchup against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, once again, I should probably pull the interview that we had with Miguel Gallardo from Apple TV back on Friday, discussing this particular matchup. And he was wondering what the back line for Cincinnati was going to look like. And he had it pegged and locked down completely. So the lineups, just to refresh, and for Pat Noonan, once again, the 3-5-2, 5-3-2, 4-4-2 in the attack, whatever. Celentano in net, back 3, Teenage Hadebi, Miles, and Nick Hagland. Then the midfield 5, as it is on the graphic, not necessarily how it ended up when the whistle blew. after the whistle blew. Left to right, Engel, Guidi, Evander, Pavel Buka, and Echenike. Echenike at times, would he be a right back? He would drift back and be a right back out of those 5 in the midfield. So you'd have 4 in defense, or you'd have Echenike coming forward and being that extra attacker up the right-hand side. And your 2 up top, Brenner and Kevin Denke. First half stats, Cincinnati, once again, we'll get into, let me look at the difference in the first half stats and the second half stats in these 2 matchups. Because first half, once again, it was right there. You had FC Cincinnati competitive, but it was only the 1 goal on the board. And so FC Cincinnati 1-0 at the break, just the goal by Messi. But once again, it was because of activity down the left-hand side. You saw Jordi Alba engage and then cut to the inside, which meant that you end up with a feed from the left wing, and you end up with a great pass and a great cutback, which is what we've always seen with Messi and friends, is that cutback cross that drives people crazy. And you end up with a really good moment there, once again, with Messi and friends and Silvetti off the left-hand side. And a lot of folks were wondering about Silvetti and Allende. So, Silvetti, 19 years old. What's it going to be? What's the pressure going to look like? Not much. Here's first goal on the board, courtesy of our friends, once again, of Apple TV Plus and Major League Soccer. Jake and Taylor on the call.
DePaul leaves for Messi. Messi to Silvetti. Silvetti across. Messi's header is in! The 2 Rosario boys combine again! Matteo Silvetti paying off the decision!
Into the feet to Kevin Denke. Jordi Alba jumps it. And now you've got Miami in these spots where they are absolute killer. Jordi Alba then comes inside. Silvetti with the overlapping run. And a brilliant left-footed ball. Composed, calm for Messi to bury it. But Jordi Alba, tip of the cap, my man. Brilliant steal the ball, pulling the defender out of the way. And Silvetti with the composure in the final third. And my word, the last person you want if you're FC Cincinnati is to get on the end of that. It is Lionel Messi with his 9th goal in his last 7 games. 26,000.
Once again, Apple TV Plus and Major League Soccer. So you end up with, wow, an application error. A client-side exception has occurred. Loading. Okay, well, that's new. All right, so we'll try and see if we can find stats someplace else, first half, second half. But anyway, you end up with 1-0 at the break. And so, all right, so Cincinnati's keeping it close. They've had their moments. It hasn't happened yet. Celentano has kept them at 1-0. Rocco Rios Novo in net. And so, everything's laying out the way that it should. So you end up with that lineup for Cincinnati. 4 Messi and friends, once again. All of the gnashing of teeth and the wringing of hands at Luis Suarez was on the bench. And you end up with Silvetti as the other forward in the 5-3-2, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, whatever. So on the graphic, when it started, Rocco Rios Novo in net. Your back 5, Jordi Alba, Noah Allen, Sergi Busquets playing a bit of a deeper role, Maxi Falcone, and Chelo Wegan. So Busquets being the conductor from basically the position of the 6, he could either drift back and help out and you'd have 5 at the back, come forward a little bit, work his way through the midfield, and start the attack that way. Jordi Alba, as you heard on that first highlight, once again, we've seen it all the time. Since Jordi Alba has been a Heron, he comes up that left-hand side, not your traditional left back, cutting to the inside to draw folks away from Silvetti. Silvetti with the cutback, finds Messi with the header, and it's 1-0. So midfield, Baltazar Rodriguez, Rodrigo DePaul, and Allende. Allende would drift up sometimes, be a right winger. You'd have Silvetti on the left-hand side, be a left winger, sometimes drift back into, the bit of the midfield. So once again, when you look at the graphic, that's until the whistle blows, and then everything just kind of wanders away. Then you have the 3 assists by Lionel Messi in the second half. And 2 of the balls that he sent forward through the back line of Cincinnati were borderline nuts. Just absolutely insane that, and we should, by now, we should not be surprised by any of this, not be surprised by any of it at all. So you end up with Messi and Allende combining to make it 2-0 in the 57th. 5 minutes later, the other youngster up top combines with Messi and Silvetti. So you hear a lot of Messi, Silvetti, and Allende together in this matchup. It was 2-0 after 57. 5 minutes later, it ends up being 3-0, and it is on at TQL, and folks are heading out the door at that point.
What a night for Messi so far. What a night for Miami. Oh my goodness. Allende's onside. Allende's in. Hadebe chasing. Allende holds him off. Allende scores! 4! Fantastic from Inter Miami, who are on their way to the Eastern Conference Final. A masterclass from Javier Mascherano. Messi to Allende again for the second time in about 10 minutes. Again they win it. Again it's Messi forward. The strength of Allende. His 5th goal of these playoffs. Lionel Messi's sixth assist of these playoffs. All the superlatives.
Once again, from our friends at Apple TV Plus and Major League Soccer. So let me take care of this bot really quickly. And I know that you guys do too. Solicitation bot. And wait, the 23 characters? Yes, we are. Okay. And David, you're all right about the time wasting element of it. And like I said, I was just looking at the numbers as they were presented on the sheet. So listed as yellows and all that stuff. So I was just reading a rundown. So yes, time wasting, absolutely correct. So you're in right there at 3, and the reaction on television because of the ball that Messi sent with the outside of his left foot through 2 defenders at the back to get that underway and to just have the race run, and you have 3 on the board, and it ends up being 4 by the time that they're done. So you end up with 4 on the board, and 76 and 80. Yes. So let me check, David, really quickly. So you had Segovia and Baltazar Rodriguez, Suarez and Allende, Busquets free kick after being fouled by Ayub Jabari. And then you end up with the Yuya Kubo save. So that's the timeline. Let me check that's the feed in and of itself. That's not the summary. Where's the summary where it just has like who did what and when and what time? Summary. Is the summary where it has the timeline as to who did what with the is this why I'm looking at Sofa Score and you can't see anything. So substitutions and goals. Allende made it 4-0 in the 74th. It doesn't have it listed with the yellow cards. It usually does. Anyway, okay. So time wasting for once again, and I don't think they necessarily cared by the time that they were done when you had the time wasting that was on the board. So you're up 4-0, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty from Cincinnati. Pat Noonan eventually would apologize for his team's effort out there on the night. And so 4-0, and Cincinnati's out the door, which leads us to, and the Commando, we will be discussing that particular moment, Rose Lavelle and Gotham, coming up with Bart Keeler coming up in a bit. Variance in yellows and fouls. Absolutely true. Oh yeah, the freeze yellow. Yeah, when they were NYC. Absolutely. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong game. Yeah, David, when Matt Freese didn't care at that point, when he got his and they were wasting time. It was straight out of the Philly book when they were trying to get things done. But yeah, Matt Freese didn't care that he got the yellow, and we looked at the clock and it was like, oh, okay. So yeah, they were definitely, pushing it down the line. But absolutely true. Yeah, Matt Freese and the slow throw-ins. NYC was trying to get out of town at that point. Absolutely true. Now you had the other match on the board, the Instant Classic. and we played off the top the Heung-min Son free kick, which was insane on multiple fronts because first and foremost, it was at 90+4, which was insane to begin with. And so you end up with Vancouver with a lead. Vancouver ends up getting a 2-0 lead, goal early on by Emmanuel Sabi, where Takaoka basically pulled out his 3-iron and went over the top, and Sabi was behind the defender. Hugo Lloris is coming out. Sabi gets there first, gets the touch past Lloris. Lloris collides into the defender after the fact, goes in, 1-0. Then Matias Laborda scores inside the 6 at 45+1. It's 2-0, and you're thinking, okay, Vancouver's got this locked, and that crowd is absolutely upside down. It was a great crowd, just under 54,000 at BC Place. And so you end up with Vancouver leading 2-0. Then Heung-min Son scores at 60, and he scores again. They call it 90+5 is what they call it, 90+5. And you look at, once again, Vancouver getting the second yellow, which converts into a red. And you end up with Tristan Blackman getting bounced once again, 64th minute. So 64th minute, Tristan Blackman's gone. You've got a 2-0 lead, or 2-1 lead at that point. And so you end up with 2-1, the Son free kick at 90+5 gets you in. But once again, the injury of Ryan Alumi, Bilal Halbouni. Sorry, it was Halbouni's injury. So Halbouni comes in it was Halbouni for Alumi. Okay, so it was okay. Trying to get 19 things done at once. So the substitution for Halbouni coming in for Alumi, who checks out, and it was Halbouni who was injured. You'll hear about that from Berhalter in a bit. So Halbouni comes in at 90+4. He has to leave with an injury, and you can't sub for him because Jesper Sorensen has used all of his subs. So 9-man right now, 9-man Vancouver survives the overtime, the 2 extra periods. And like I said, if you haven't seen this match, if you can't stay for the full 3 hours or whatever, just go ahead and skip to like 90. Or if you want to skip to 60 when LAFC starts to score, start there. So that way you start there, come forward, out of subs and a red card. So you're playing with 10, 90+4, you have your sub, you get in, and then it's 2-2. Halbouni leaves with an injury, you're playing with 9. And there were, I think the number was 5. I think it was 5 posts, not in the summary, but in the overtime period, it was 5 opportunities, and I think it was 5 posts and 3 shots that were wide in the final 10 minutes. And there was one that was to the near post. As you're looking at it, LAFC is going second half. They're going in the overtime. They're going from right to left, and you end up with 3 posts. Each post got hit and the crossbar in one sequence. Shot comes into the near post. Takaoka gets a hand on it, goes off the near post, comes back the other way. Near post on the near side of the camera. Shot hits the post again. Then the third opportunity goes off the crossbar. So you had all of those opportunities for LAFC. There was one that went skimming right through the 6, right across the goal line and the goal mouth in and of itself. So as we were talking about with Abe, everything is happening, and it's all in the Vancouver end, and it's just tilted, and it's out of control. So you end up with just craziness happening as Vancouver's defending for their lives. So let me go. Let's see. So if we go into the second extra time period, you have an attempt missed. You have 5 attempts missed in a 5-minute period. You have 2 saves from Takaoka. One was a block by Berhalter, and then the second was saved at 120 plus 2. Denny Bouanga hit the post, and this was the one that was the triple post. So you end up with near side post, Bouanga hitting the crossbar from the center of the box, then hits the post from the left side of the box at 120 plus 4. So you had you had a block, a save, 2 posts, and 5 missed chances from minute 113 to minute 120 plus 4. So in 11 minutes, you had 5 attempts missed, a block, 3 posts, and a save to get to PKs. To get to PKs, that's where you were. And then Yeonmin Son hits the post off the first. And then as you go forward, Sebastian Berhalter in the bottom of the first, he gets it past Hugo Lloris, and he's absolutely clutch, and you know why he's going to be probably pinned into the lineup. We'll talk to Bart Keeler coming up in a couple of minutes about it. But Berhalter, with how he showed up and showed out in the PKs, in addition to what he's been doing with Vancouver, getting them to this particular point. Wandering through all the frames, Mark Delgado tried to go Panenka and airmailed it. Then you had a save by Lloris, and then you end up with Matias Laborda getting it past Lloris, and you end up with, once again, Vancouver making their way through in an instant classic. Yes, we've got the highlights, but if we played all the highlights, we would not be getting to Bart in a handful of minutes. Couple of folks to keep a listen to when it comes to post game. Let me play for you Thomas Mueller, because once again it'll fit time. So here's Thomas Mueller after the match, where Vancouver wins in the PK shootout to send LAFC home, courtesy of Vancouver Whitecaps, their own selves.
The group deserves it to have this matchup and to have also the crowds. And if you see, as Scotty mentioned, the development, the improvement since especially this season, since Jesper joined in, the playing style. They went to the Champions League final, or CONCACAF. And points-wise, I think was the best season in the club's history, right? So it's a little bit different. And we deserve this team out there, every player. And we had so many different situations, injured players, players from maybe from the bench. They came in and had a big impact for us. So we are a serious team, and we deserve this crowd, and our fans can look forward for the game. We are happy to be there, but our mission is not done yet. We're thinking about only this game, but yeah, we have more plans.
Thomas Mueller after the match, after Vancouver survives LAFC to get to the Western Conference Final. It seemed after the match also, let me see if I can find the quote before we tossed a sound from Hugo Lloris. All right, so it was a quote from Steve Cherundolo, and let's see, I'm trying to find let's see, Cherundolo's not concerned about his legacy. Where was it? But I've got to find the Cherundolo quote where basically he says, okay, after the fact, he said, Cherundolo says, given some time to reflect, LAFC players and staff will realize, quote, we lost this one and Vancouver didn't win. We lost this one and Vancouver didn't win. There would be those who would posit to Coach Cherundolo that perhaps if I don't know, played with a little more gumption down the line, as they say here in the South, that you wouldn't have had the issues that you had. You would have probably had more points along the way, and the matchup with Vancouver could have been at BMO Stadium instead of up at BC Place, where Hugo Lloris decided to say this on his way out the door. Once again, this is courtesy of Celso Oliveira. Hugo Lloris after the match discussing BC Place.
I want to enjoy football. I was really pleased for a semifinal of conference to see a full stadium. But I think playing on an artificial pitch like this one, it's almost unacceptable. And I think the MLS should think about it, and the owner of Vancouver should think about it, because we all love football, and I think this pitch, I mean, this crowd, this stadium deserve a better field, you know. I mean, in lower division in France, there is even better artificial pitch than this one. So I think it's something that we can improve for the MLS. Then we can talk about the game. I think.
And so that was Hugo Lloris as he started his way out the door, discussing the surface at BC Place and getting that shot in, saying MLS should address that, the surface at BC Place, and that was unacceptable. And then he got into talking about the game, but that was from Celso Oliveira when Hugo Lloris was sitting at a table after the match. It's after 10 o'clock, hour number 2, which means we bring in Bart Keeler to discuss all the things. Yeah, the Yinzer T-shirt. You're ready to go this morning. I see what's going on there with the former Heinz Field. What is Acrisure, by the way? Do we know?
It's an insurance company, John.
Okay, and I noticed the very very how do we phrase this? The well placed mug this morning that you have with your morning beverage. Yes, the well placed mug. Yes. Yes, we will be discussing that particular element of the weekend in cards and calls and things and all that kind of stuff.
Are Spurs players and fans complaining about something in a game that they lost?
Oh,
shocking! We just heard from one complaining about a game that they lost.
Yeah. So we kind of buzzed through, like literally, we could have taken the entire show and discussed the instant classic and Messi and friends and NYCFC running into Chester and getting a point. I know that you and I are going to be discussing one of the other finals from the weekend. That's going to be coming up in a sec. But looking at the 3 matchups that we talked about, with the 4th one coming up tonight, we now know one full conference final in the Eastern Conference, and we know half of the element in the Western Conference. What are your takeaways from the 3 matches that we talked about in hour number 1?
Well, I'll go game by game. The first is that Vancouver has a lot of belief about them. We've kind of seen that all season, but I think that game particularly showed me that they are a team that believes they can win a championship. Obviously, LAFC has that, and they have a couple players who, are world class at some point in their career. That didn't matter. And that was a big thing for me for Vancouver, is they just believed. And at this time of the year, that's what matters. I was shocked, John, that Cincinnati shipped. I mean, let's see how many. Which is more, the amount of deviled eggs you're going to eat on Thursday, or the amount of goals that Cincinnati conceded on Saturday? I mean, it was a lot. I was shocked that they conceded that many goals in a home playoff match. Yes, Miami is good. Yes, Messi is still the GOAT. But that if I were a Cincinnati fan, I would be quite upset that my team allowed that to happen. And then the final game which for me was the most entertaining. I know the LAFC Vancouver game was went into overtime and all these things, but for me, that game was the most entertaining because Philly just. John, I think this is a great example of energy drink soccer just has a ceiling.
Yeah.
And Philly played well. They created plenty of chances. Obviously, New York City, again, like they did against our friends up north on 85, they defended like their lives depended on it. And it wasn't the slash the tires, put the bus in front of the goal type of defending. It was, I'm throwing my body on the line defending. But I think, again, what we see is energy drink soccer has a ceiling. And especially in this format, when I was talking about this with a friend who, she is a St. Louis City fan. So her feelings on Bradley Carnell are mostly positive, especially after this season.
Okay.
Mostly. She respects him, again, especially after the season they endured. But we were talking, and it's like, in the playoffs, be it in a series or a one-off, the other team will do everything they can to prepare for your style of play.
Mm-hmm.
During the season, and we've seen this, I don't know, John, how many years has Atlanta United played soccer against one of these teams? And we see it every year. We're
8.
not changing. We're not changing for energy drink soccer. We're not changing because New York or Philly or St. Louis is our opponent. We're going to do the things that we do week in and week out, because over the course of a 34-week season, you don't have time to completely change your tactics like that. You may adjust a little bit. But in a playoff, and John, we saw this in 2018, you can say, all right, we're going to change our tactics, because the mentality at that point is you're doing everything you can to win. And I think the other thing is energy drink soccer requires a high intensity that a lot of teams on a week-to-week basis may not be able to bring. A lot of opponents may not be able to bring. Once it comes time for playoff, baby, there's only one thing that you care about. And again, when it comes down to we're winning or you're not,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that was kind of what I learned most out of that game. Philly played really well. Andre Blake sacrificed himself to the Delaware River gods, and it wasn't enough. Matt Freeze, I have to shout him out, our apparent U.S. #1.
Yep.
This is why he is so well regarded by, I think, the U.S. coaching staff. Now, I would like to see him fully put on a display like that in a U.S. show. But you can see he's got a lot of that Matt Turner, I'm going to stand on my head and win you a game at the MLS level. And that was pretty fun to watch.
Sebastian Berhalter, what did you think of how he is cemented?
Hold on.
Yeah.
There's controversy in the chat. What do you mean deviled eggs, David? Like, you've never A, had deviled eggs, or B, had them at every family function we have has deviled eggs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I will be traveling on Thursday. Montgomery, Alabama, and traditionally the joke from the boss is, okay, one of the extended family will bring in said plate, and it will be there. And the joke from the boss is, okay, what's the rest of us going to have when it comes to the appetizers on the table? Devil
Look,
eggs.
John, how many when you go to Waffle House after your Georgia high school championship weekend?
Sure.
What's your order?
Grilled cheese wheat on 2, triple order hash browns, scattered, smothered, covered, chunked, and topped.
So you don't get eggs then? Okay.
No.
How many eggs do you eat as sitting for breakfast?
2? Sure.
3 maybe?
When I have breakfast, or when I have breakfast, it's 2, maybe 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many deviled eggs will you eat? 10, 12?
Yeah, about right.
Yeah. So, we all that once you put it in a deviled egg form, your egg consumption exponentially increases. I don't know, David. I don't know where you're having Thanksgiving or any holiday function that you're not having deviled eggs. So, I suggest you reevaluate that.
Well, then at the same time, I believe it's only fair that David let us know what the appetizers are in his Thanksgiving table. So,
ours are the same for pretty much Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, Christmas we add more because we do a lot more appetizer type stuff, but we always have deviled eggs. We always have a pretty traditional cheese ball, the dried meat on the outside.
Not happening.
So I have become brought in an extra type of cheese ball. Usually it's either pecan or some sort of something. I've made a pepperoni cheese ball before. That's pretty darn good.
Okay, that's enough.
And then we'll do sausage balls a lot of times as well.
Yeah.
So those are our big appetizers, and then like a dip. Just pick a dip. Pick a dip.
Traditionally, that's about right. But yes, so yes, David. So please let us know what your appetizer plates are in your holiday gatherings, so we can compare and contrast notes. But yes, for folks in the Deep South, it is deviled eggs is part and parcel. I mean, it is there, and the red sprinkles on top and everything, and no, it's there. So it is
getting tricky this year, John, by making my own mayonnaise.
Oh,
that
is
experimenting. I'm not experimenting with the recipe because I'm still putting mayonnaise, but I am making my own mayonnaise this year because I'm going to do a roasted garlic mayonnaise. So
okay,
that's my experimentation for the Thanksgiving table.
Okay, I see where you're working. All right, got it. All right, Godspeed, Titan.
Back to soccer.
Yeah. Well, so Sebastian Berhalter, especially with how he has been a part of what Vancouver
Yeah.
has been able to do, getting to the Western Conference final. And he has galvanized a lot of folks on that
Mhm.
Vancouver roster. Thomas Mueller is, saying his praises as well when it comes to all of this stuff. What have you seen from Berhalter this season in Vancouver that you're hoping equally will translate to the national team?
Okay. So I'm gonna start by tempering expectations because I think he's been really good, and when he's had his opportunities for the U.S. national team, he's shown pretty well for the most part. I do think we need to kind of understand that um, if you're looking at a full 11, don't listen to this comment, Mauricio Pochettino. Your first team that you're actually trying to put out there. I just don't know where he factors in.
Okay.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
but the intensity he brings to the field, uh, both for Vancouver and for the US, is one of those things that seeps into the rest of the team because in training every day, if you're bringing that type of intensity, it means the guy you're going up against has to play just as intense as you, otherwise they're looking to fool. And if that means a guy like Weston McKennie or Tanner Tessman or even Tyler Adams now has to think, oh man, I'm going up against Seb. I gotta bring my absolute best. That type of player elevates the game of everyone else around him, even if he's not directly on the field. So that's what he's been bringing, especially for the national team. But on the field for Vancouver, I think the best thing that happened to Sebastian Berhalter was having Thomas Mueller come in because I think he's learned a lot about what leadership looks like from Thomas Mueller, and it's not always pointing the finger or pumping people up. It's about doing your job the best you can, being positive, being fiery, in his own way. But that has been kind of what I've seen most from him. You could talk about the set piece delivery. His penalty kick was pretty darn good. Those are technical things that are great. But what he does bring is a lot of the intangibles that can be taught. I do want to stress that to all the parents and kids listening. You can teach intangibles. You just have to be willing to commit to doing the intangibles.
Okay. And obviously, we'll keep an eye on Berhalter and his continued impact, growth. Insert here, however you want to
Mhm.
continue to play forward. Now, I know that we need to discuss the NWSL championship game, and I want to get into that as a separate topic here in a second. But now I need you to put your referee gear on for a minute. Going back to the Philadelphia NYC game,
Okay.
and we have discussed, and this is a philosophical question. So, and this might be anecdotal evidence. This could be conversations that you have with fellow officials in a match where you have a team that is, I'll phrase it this way, overly physical, going up against a team that is not. How do you avoid whistle fatigue from a team that is as physical as team A is? Still, you want to be within the construct of your match itself, not have the refs lose character of who they are, lose control
Mhm.
of the match, those kinds of things. How do you keep from getting whistle fatigue when you see foul, whistle, game stops and slows down, foul, whistle, game stops and slows down, foul, turnover, whistle, game stops and slows down? Do you ever get tired of blowing a whistle from seeing overly physical play?
Mm.
And you're just kind of like over time, it's like, damn, I'm tired of blowing this thing and slowing the game down. Do refs ever get whistle fatigue?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because you just get annoyed having to call it, right? When team P
Hmm.
is intentionally fouling as a tactic, right?
Yeah.
As a referee, you do have a job to do, and it's to make sure the game is played in a fair manner,
Hmm.
fair and safe.
Yeah.
That's our biggest two things, right?
Yeah.
If you're fouling a lot of times, then we're borderline not safe.
Yeah.
So there's kind of the biggest thing again that the referees are out there is to ensure safety. Because remember, back when soccer association football started out, guys were dying, limbs were being broken on a regular basis. they decided, hey, we should probably have someone making sure we don't have to end up in the hospital after every single game.
Yeah.
So our number one job here is safety. So a lot of times Team P, it's petulant, may not be particularly gruesome, the fouls, but they are petulant, and those can add up and cause actual safety concerns. So as a referee, you do have to be on top of that. Now, if you're tired of blowing your whistle, that probably means you need to give yellow cards. And that would be what I would always say is if you feel like you're calling a lot of fouls, you probably are. And we do have somewhat of a solution for that. And it is showing cautions to either players or teams who are fouling a lot. Because sometimes you may have to lower your bar a little bit for that threshold of a yellow card and say, well, okay, that foul itself wasn't, but there's been a couple fouls similar to this that we just can't have anymore. The rule of thumb that I've always been told is a yellow card is for something that we don't want to see a lot of in the game, right? So it could be time wasting, it could be a harsh tackle from behind. A red card is something you never want to see in the game. That's why you get ejected. You did a bad thing, you're done. If we're trying to apply that logic, we don't want to see a lot of fouls like this in a game. So you probably should start adding a little bit of, a caution here or there. Because even if it's not for assistant infringement from one player, these types of fouls add up over time. And you can give cautions for, hey, that was a little bit of a late challenge. Hey, you grabbed him. You can extend the stopping a promising attack, or you can extend the unsporting behavior and all these things. You can kind of stretch it out a little bit and say, come on, man, you can't be doing that. You can't just kick a guy in the ankles because you're mad that he happened to get by you, or because you don't want him to be able to then get the ball and dribble, right? You're allowed to do that, especially if you can then say, well, you're not even trying to play the ball, which, again, Team P a lot of times doesn't even try to do that. So
or they
you kind of have to have that approach.
Or they try to be, or the team tries to be physical after a pass is completed. So in the backwash,
right,
all of the activities in front of the officials as they're
and
going
anything that happens late after an action, like a either defensive action or offensive, action, anything that happens after that ball has been passed away or dribbled away, like you're fully within your rights to give a yellow card, in my opinion, because it's late. It is not within the realms of playing soccer. To me, that is unsporting behavior because you're doing something outside of the purpose of the sport. And that's the coverall of most yellow cards that we give is unsporting behavior. But that definitely qualifies, John, as, oh, he passed the ball and now I'm going to give him a nice little, kick against the ankles, or a nice little shoulder and forearm most of the time, and kind of knock him off. That's well within their rights to do that. And probably should happen more often because, again, it's a tactic. It didn't work for them because, again, at some point, you have to try to score goals. And that's something that energy drink soccer forgets a lot of times, is you actually do have to play soccer and score a goal every now and then. And when your tactic is to just foul, again, you're forgetting that the goal is to score a goal. And if you don't score goals in a playoff setting, right, especially, you ain't going to win unless you can guarantee, not everyone can be Pittsburgh, and guarantee that you're going to, win in a penalty shootout.
But then there's the balance, I would imagine, from the philosophical area between the ears for officials, especially center refs, where you don't want to, you want to keep the game under control, and you don't want to just it's the idea of having multiple conversations and adding up to a no moss over time, as opposed to just going card, out of the blocks. And so that's the other element I think that refs have to balance here, that we have to keep an eye on, where it's okay. And you're in a game of this level of importance. So you've got to balance the idea of not wanting to show a card too early, because then you've set the bar early as to where cards are coming from. And it's all of these things in play when it comes to, okay, normally I run a game this way, but I don't want to give a card early. I'll give talking tos, even if the foul might have been, a little overzealous from the normal bar. There's a balancing act here, I think, that we've got to stare at sometimes, where officials don't want to sit there and take the character out of the game. They don't want a game decided on a card, even though you had Tristan Blackman get the second yellow with 25 to go, and you had to. But early on, you don't want to set that precedent, and then the team that's physical sees that you're not setting that precedent, and they continue to be more physical and physical and physical and push the bar and push before finally the ref sits there, is like, okay, I've had it. But that bar is so far down the line and probably away from where that center ref normally is playing. It's like you have all of these other intangibles that you've got to juggle here.
Well, now's a good time to talk about the NWSL championship, because this was something that actually kind of bothered me a little bit about the officiating in that final.
Okay, so then let's play the moment. Let's play the one moment, the one goal in the match, and then we'll get into the discussion about officiating and national team players and Trinity Rodman and all that kind of stuff. So it was on Sirius XM FC, which was very, very cool. And you had a familiar voice that was doing play-by-play on said match. She's one of our OGs, Jessica Charman. It was a Jess booth. Jessica Charman, Jessica McDonald. Here's the one moment that got the goal on the board, courtesy of the NWSL and Sirius XM FC.
Gotham FC trying to enjoy a little bit of ball as they switch the field over to their left-hand side. 30 yards from goal is Brunina as she heads now into the 18-yard box. Couple of step overs, juking as she lays it across top of the box is Rose LaBelle! Rose LaBelle absolutely nails it into the side netting. She opens her hips with her left foot and curls it into the corner. A stunning finish by the US international star. And Gotham FC have the 1-0 lead in the championship.
And that would be the one goal with 10 to go. And a lot of folks were wondering, is this going to go extra? Are we going extra? Are we going extra? No, it's a fantastic pass back to Rose LaBelle, top of the box. And she pushed it home. 1-0 for the 8th seed. Gotham gets the win. So if you would please, sir, your concerns about how the match was called.
So after this goal, and it happened a little bit before this, but after this goal, Gotham decided that they were going to just waste time as any way possible. And there were multiple incidents where one, if not two, Gotham players decided to kick a ball away. Mm-hmm. And in my book, always that is a straight yellow card, especially if it happens after the ball has been, like, if it's immediately after the foul, I'm going to give someone we're talking to, say, hey, don't kick the ball away like that, or I'll say, hey, you heard my whistle, something like that. As I had to do to some 19-year-olds who don't listen to anyone anyway, so that's always a fun conversation. But there was one incident in particular that I think both Esther and Jaden Shaw kicked a ball away after it had basically been put down, and for some reason got off without yellow cards. And John, when you're talking about, I don't want to give a yellow card, no, they made the decision to do that, knowing full well, in theory, that is a no-no. And that's what bothers me with this whole, I don't want to give a yellow card and affect the game. The players are playing the game, and if they do something that is deserving of a yellow card, then they're the ones affecting the game. That's on them, especially when it comes to procedural stuff, right? Stopping a promising attack, delaying the restart of play, failing to respect the distance. All these things are automatic yellow cards, right? This isn't oh man, that was kind of a bad challenge. Maybe I just need to talk to them and say, hey, calm down. These are procedural things that are automatic yellow cards when you do them. And they got away with it there. They got away with it before that. They got away with it a few times after it. That was frustrating me as an official watching this match, going, how are they getting away with this? Because, again, fair and safe. It's not fair to the opposing team that after they've been fouled, that the team who fouls them can go, kick the ball away, just touch it away. And we've seen plenty of times where guys get, I'm thinking a lot of Arsenal players right now, getting a yellow card just because they happen to, be in the way of they happen to just poke a ball away, or they happen to just, I don't know, move it slightly. And now you got, players in an NWSL championship game very clearly wasting time by kicking a ball away or preventing a team from taking a free kick quickly. All these things, those should be automatic yellow cards. They just have to be. That's where we're at. And the fact that they got away with it was a little annoying, if you ask me, because again, I get that we don't want to give yellow cards and affect the game, as you say, The players are choosing to do this. So if a player chooses to curse at me, me giving them a yellow card isn't, oh man, I don't want to. No, they chose to do that. That's on them.
The crew, for information's sake, Natalie Simon was your center ref. It was her third NWSL final, 2021 and 2022. Chris Sherfranz and Matt Trotter were your ARs. Nabil Ben Salah was your fourth. Sean Tahini and John Krill were upstairs, and Christian Clerc was your reserve VAR individual. So I've never seen an RAR before, but you had a 7-ref crew, 3 of them upstairs. Sean Tahini, John Krill, and Christian Clerc. I thought that was interesting. But Natalie Simon, Chris Sherfranz, Matt Trotter, Nabil Ben Salah were your ARs, and your fourth for the championship.
Typically for matches like this, you have a lot of referees on hand because you want to make sure you're covered on all your bases, just in case you never want to have to, be concerned that there's not going to be a referee present. But yeah, I mean, look, that was my big gripe from the game from an officiating standpoint. I thought everything else is pretty good, to be quite honest. But that was just, to me, very annoying because we've been told to try to stop that in the game, and here we are allowing players in the championship final ability to just not even toe the line, completely cross it and get away with it.
Yep. And Trinity Rodman comes in and she plays the final 33 minutes. Part of her 33 minutes was a nasty collision, and we do not have any kind of an injury update on her because when contact was made late, she was down for a while and came back up, and she was not at 100%. She tried to continue to gut it out over the end of the match, but we don't have any report about any kind of injury diagnosis or anything like that. But she was down for quite some time. And like I said, we'll keep an eye on that, especially with her status in the NWSL really hanging in the balance right now, where apparently DC Power has come up with a bid that is far more than anything that could be given in NWSL constraints. And so you had a lot of players in this matchup with national team ties. You got Rose Lavelle, Emily Sonnet making history in their own ways there. First ever NWSL championship title, scoring the latest goal in NWSL final history for Rose Lavelle. And you end up with an 8 seed making their way all the way through. So you look at how it was for Gotham as an 8, making it all the way through to the last game of the year. So you get an 8 seed that a lot of folks were poo-pooing and throwing the cloak of doubt over, and they end up getting the Duke and getting the championship.
They were just inconsistent all season. I think that was the big thing that people were confused about with Gotham is, okay, we see the talent, right? There's a lot of talent up and down this roster. Some of it wasn't there all the time, and I think that needs to be said. They finally got basically all their key pieces healthy. Obviously no Tanner Davidson, but from the standpoint of every other position, basically they were healthy. They had their big players there. That I think went a long way. I don't know, man. Gotham, when they won it in 2023, they were like a 6 seed. So maybe that's the secret for Gotham is just play the underdog role and go on and win it. Look, I think this is, again, a testament to the depth of quality and the amount of talent in the league more than anything. Spirit, obviously, a fantastic season with, again, a lot of talent. I will say I think Coach got it wrong with the Hal Hirschfeld situation. To just be frank, I think she was off for what seemed like half an hour trying to get treatment. I know it was only 7 minutes, but that's one of those where if she can't go if it's been 7 minutes, what are we doing? You just got to make it. You got to make a decision. And I think he made the wrong decision by putting her back out there. I'm not saying that the goal was because of that, but you could kind of tell that positionally and agility-wise, she wasn't able to respond to that ball played across the top, as just described there, from Bruninia to Rose Lavelle. And I think a fully healthy Hal Hirschfeld reaches that. She got some long legs. She can reach that. But I think a healthy any player in that position maybe is just able to respond to that instead of one whose ankle had been rolled up about 90 degrees the way it shouldn't have been 7 minutes prior. So that to me was a defining moment, and the coach got it wrong. And I think that was it's hard to say, oh wow, why wouldn't you trust your player? But again, after 7 minutes of treatment and not even looking like she could fully run before coming back on the field, I think that was an incorrect decision from the coach there.
Yanks abroad. Christian Pulisic gets the only goal in the Milan derby, 1-0 win over Inter. They're now up to second in the table in Serie A within 2 points of new leader Roma. Fifth goal of the year in the 54th as Jan Sommer tried to parry the Salamaker shot away, and Christian Pulisic was there for the slam dunk. Given a 7.5 by Gazzetta dello Sport, 1 being the low and 10 being the high. So people have started doing 0.5s now. So it's like we're trying to figure out what that looks like. But I don't know. I don't know how you do 0.5s. I really don't. So Gazzetta dello Sport on Pulisic, quote, he returns to the starting lineup after the spell in Parma and decides the derby, his 5th Serie A goal. Captain America stings in the first half, then settles the match, end quote.
I mean, he is a very important player for AC Milan, and I think anyone who pretends otherwise is just a hater, to be quite honest. I think since he got to Milan, he's got more goal contributions in Serie A than just about anyone else, with 45, which is a lot. He's a vital player to that team.
Mm-hmm. Then you've also got from the Big Five leagues, Brendan Aronson played 89 minutes in the loss to Aston Villa. Tanner Tessman, once again, we find out why Lyon is Lyon. Thank you, John Texter. Druitt O'Shea dropped to 7th without a win in their last 4. So Mark McKenzie did not have a good day in a loss to Angers. Tanner Tessman, apparently, according to L'Equipe, had even a worse day in the draw with O'Shea. So Angers and O'Shea take their pounds of flesh from McKenzie and Tessman. St. Pauli is still in the bottom 3 of the Bundesliga. James Sands played 90 minutes in a loss to Union Berlin, got a 4. And so it was kind of a light week from all of our players in the Big 5 European leagues coming back from the international window.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of Tessman's performances at Lyon, because I think Lyon as a whole is not fully sure what type of team they want to be right now. They've been not good this season, just to be frank. And maybe it's because they lost their best player with a move to Atletico Madrid this past summer. Maybe that's Thiago Almada, by the way. Maybe it's just a coaching issue. I'm not quite sure, but a lot of blame is being dumped on Tanner Tessman, and I think it's just let's blame the American instead of looking at the actual problem within the team.
Right.
Not great, but I do want to since we're talking Yanks abroad, John. We got to go back to our friend Oliver Glasner.
Yes, and Chris Richards. Yes, absolutely true.
Who blamed? He said, "Oh well, he came out." For those who don't know, Chris Richards exited the match this weekend early. Glasner said, "Oh, it's just cramps," and then blamed that he got too much time off in the international break, that he wasn't match ready.
Boy, yeah.
Bro, which one is it?
Whichever.
The clown show that has become Oliver Glasner, the hypocrite, the liar, the cheat, and the scapegoat artist. What are we doing here, man? First you blame Mauricio Pochettino. How dare you play him so much? Now you're saying, well, we didn't let him go, and now he didn't play enough, and that's why he got cramps. Which one is it? Don't be mad at the U.S. because you can't figure out how to coach your team better. That ain't our problem.
Glasner quote, 83 minutes left in Palace's 2-0 win at Wolves. Glasner said, quote, he said he was cramping. Maybe we gave him too long off because he wasn't called up for the United States and had the first week of the international
break.
Why
wasn't he called up, Oliver? Why wasn't he?
Hopefully it's nothing serious, end quote. So he shouldn't have played in the October window because of injury concerns. And then after the November window, when he didn't play, first time out of the blocks for Crystal Palace, he's removed after 83 minutes because he said he was cramping.
Because he didn't. He had too much time off.
Because, too much time off. Yeah.
Clown show.
So
Clown show.
Oliver Glasner, I think that Crystal Palace might be coming back to the mean when it comes to everything.
I think that's the problem is that they have. I don't want to say they've flown too close to the sun. That's probably not the right metaphor, but definitely regressing to the mean of, oh yeah, you can't just expect every other team to not play well against you.
Mm-hmm. Tyler Adams, 79 minutes in the 2-2 draw with West Ham. You had Flair and Balogun on the bench in Monaco's loss at Rennes. Tim Weah plays 90 minutes, gets a goal in the 5-1 win for Marseille at Nice.
That was a thumping goal, man. That was
Malik Tillman scored.
Mollywopped that one.
Mollywop. That was a good Southern word. Malik Tillman scored Leverkusen's third goal in the 3-1 win at Wolfsburg. Leverkusen now in second, 8 points behind Bayern Munich. Tillman making his first start since mid-October because of the thigh injury. 3 goals in 7 Bundesliga appearances. Borussia Mönchengladbach beat Wolfsburg 3-1 for their third straight win, move up to 11th. Bild noted that Joe Scally moved from his wide spot onto the 3-man backline to replace the injured Philippe Sander in the back 3, quote, according to Bild, which came somewhat at the expense of his newly acquired attacking qualities, end quote. Gio Reyna gave you 18 minutes, won 3 of his 4 duels, and played a few nice passes, reported Bild.
Hey, look, we're just happy Gio Reyna's playing soccer. Anytime Gio Reyna plays soccer, it's probably a good thing for U.S. national team. Scally's weird, man. I don't understand how that type of player who, again, starts week in and week out for a Bundesliga team. I mean, has been doing it for 3+ years, right? 4 years? Definitely 3 years. I can't. Math is hard, John. I didn't go to school for math. I have multiple degrees in words, but not math.
Correct. Right there with you.
That it just is. It's confusing why when he comes to the national team, he's just fine. And maybe that's what Joe Scally is. I think from an identity, he is a perfectly good player. I don't think he does anything particularly great. I don't think he does anything badly, right? And I think that works on a team like Gladbach, where it's like, hey, man, your job is to be steady, win your situational duels, lock down that right side. I do think that he provides a lot of versatility to the national team, where if you're talking about playing more of a right center back or a right back kind of in that swing-ish role, I think he provides you something there. But look, we saw Alex Freeman do it against Uruguay and looked pretty darn good too. Scored a goal in a position that was definitely not right center back, by the way.
No.
But took advantage of those opportunities. It's good to have this problem of you have a dude starting week in and week out for the Bundesliga, and yet you're not quite sure if he's your starting player at that position.
Other Saturdays, we talked about Malik Tillman, 64 minutes and a goal. Joe Scally, and this is an inverted scale according to Bild, where the higher the number, the lower the performance level. So
what are these Germans doing?
Malik Tillman, I mean, they do metric too. Malik Tillman, 64 minutes and a goal. Basically, he got out of a 6-1, he got a 2. So
pretty good then.
Yes,
I think.
Scally and Reyna, we talked about them. Noah Kai Banks for Augsburg played 90 minutes and got a 3. So he was there. Christopher Lund played 90 minutes in a 4-3 shootout loss at Eintracht Frankfurt. Leonard Maloney got a 5, playing 1/2 for Mainz in their 1-1 draw with Hoffenheim. Weston McKennie traveled to Florence. 1-1 draw with Fiorentina, briefly stopped after extended racist chanting directed at former Fiorentina forward Dusan Vlahovic, who is Serbian. Weston McKennie on a 1 to 10, 1 being lowest, 10 being the highest. So we're back to that. Gazzetta dello Sport gave Weston McKennie a 6 in the 90 minutes that were there. His header startled Franchi, according to Gazzetta dello Sport. He was the closest to scoring in the second half. As usual, he worked hard in 3 positions. So that's Yanks abroad for another week. So before your time is up on your Monday, cards and calls, and you're looking once again at goals being disallowed, and you're looking at offside, and the offside discussion seems to be rearing its ugly head again. And just once again, and you can include the subjective nature that seems to be creeping in, but please explain what it currently is as it is discussed in the laws of the game.
Okay, So I'm assuming we're talking about the goal Arsenal scored against Tottenham, the second goal, where multiple players were in an offside position and Tottenham wanted it disallowed for obstructing the keeper, basically.
Check.
This has obviously been disallowed a couple times in recent memory. But I do think that there are some reasons why this particular goal was upheld. Now, firstly, we are talking about you must be in an offside position, which means you are closer to the goal line than the second to last defensive player.
Okay.
And then you must interfere with the goalkeeper's ability, basically, to make a save or play the ball. Same as you would with like any other defender. Now, we are a little bit more I don't want to say strict, but we are a little bit more attentive to the idea of interfering with the goalkeeper because of a couple of things, mainly because they are trying to save the goal as opposed to a defender who may just be playing the ball, and just because an offside dude is near them doesn't mean it's interfering with their ability, although I could get on a big old rant about that too. I think why this particular goal was upheld is it goes back to the whole point of VAR, which is to resolve clear and obvious errors. And I think why Arsenal's, granted, there were like 3 players in an offside position, possibly.
Yes, it
interfering
was.
with
You were looking at
Vicario's ability to
Saka, Zubamendi, and Trossard.
And Trossard, yes.
Yeah.
I think where Arsenal gets away with this is that they're all 3 like 10 yards from goal. I don't disagree that they may have been in the line of sight. So, I am saying that. But I think when we're looking at this, you're going, wait, so any player who happens to be in the line of sight of a goalkeeper is now possibly offside, even if they're 10, 11, maybe 12 yards out from goal. I think when I've seen this a lot of times, and we could talk about solutions, the player is like in the 6-yard box, right? They are in the goal area in front of the goalkeeper. So again, if you're outside of that 6-yard box, if you're outside of that, if you're closer to the penalty spot, if you're closer to the 18, I think what they're basically saying is, are you actually interfering with the goalkeeper's ability to play his position, right? And I think that's a fair question. And again, when it comes to clear and obvious, that's not clear and obvious, I think, is what basically VAR has said in a lot of these incidents. I think the other thing to remember is we look at the couple goals disallowed for this and not the plenty of goals that are upheld for the same standards.
And Dale Johnson, who is now BBC's Dale Johnson,
he no longer ESPN's.
Yes. So in his article, he says the key consideration for VAR is that the offside players are moving away from the play, and that the keeper can see the ball at the time of the shot.
Yeah.
So,
and it's hard in this particular scenario because I don't know if they're necessarily moving away, but I would argue that they are definitely not moving to.
Okay.
They are not in an effort to, like, they as themselves are not trying to interfere with play. Now, that doesn't excuse them. But again, we're talking clear and obvious error on a subjective matter, right?
Clear.
So
that sounds like the HAL 9000 for me. It's clear and obvious on a subjective.
Yep.
And
so it would have to be. So I think, and Dale in his article talks about how do we find ways to better define this? And I do think that, like, if you're inside the goal area, specifically between the posts, right? If you're like within, call it the tackle box, if you will. Talking about that with the Falcons yesterday with the stupidly unneeded potential grounding. But anyway, good things we won. If you're going to go with like, oh, you're in the goal box, right? Which we all consider that 6-yard box area, the goal area. But like, you're 6 yards or less from goal, or fewer from goal, and you're within the goalposts. To me, that is, you are actively interfering with, like, you could possibly be actively interfering with the goalkeeper, right? Now, if the goal is on, the near post and you're just standing at the far post and you're offside and you don't do anything, that's whatever. But like, I think when we need to understand that you cannot. Every play can be checked, but just because someone is in an offside position does not mean that they are guilty of an offside offense.
Okay.
You need to do a better job of kind of, and maybe VAR has, and they just haven't let us know. Maybe that's something that they talk about with PGMOL and others, that there is a standard or at least a barrier of like, dude, you're closer to the top of the box than you are the goal line. Like, how are you interfering with the goalkeeper's ability to make a save? And again, clear and obvious. So how do we just give us a little bit of room of saying, look, if it's outside the 6, we'll look at it, but you have to be doing something like you have to have dummied the ball for a shot, basically. I think that's what Dale is hinting at, and I think what VAR is basically trying to say is like, just because you're offside and happen to be in front of the goal doesn't mean that you're offside, right? Again, you cannot be penalized for being in an offside position in itself. It is not an offense in itself to be in an offside position. That is in the laws of the game. So in this case here, they're going, well, they're part of natural play. They're not moving toward the ball or the goalkeeper in an attempt to distract him. It's just they happen to be in an offside position when the shot was taken. And I think, again, when you look at the distance, I think it's fair to say, oh, maybe he couldn't have seen the shot. Sure, but there were also Tottenham defenders in the way of the shot. So, are we going to – I don't know. There's a lot of factors to consider, and I just think that one of the big ones is distance from the actual goal, or the goalkeeper, I should say, in this scenario where, the goalkeeper is on his line, and they're a good 10 yards away from him. Kind of hard for me to go, oh, wow, they're definitely interfering with play. Yes. Mm-hmm. Also, it's Tottenham.
Yes, as you wait for St. Totteringham's Day at some point later on in the season, and you finish your you finish your cup of coffee. All right, what's the latest with Soccer for USPod, sir?
We are hopefully recording tonight about last week and the last window's wonderful matches. We get to talk about positivity this time around, John. No negatives involved. And we'll be talking about that and hopefully get that out before Thursday so you can have something to listen to on your drive to whichever family member's house you're going to. Or maybe if you're like me and going to be preparing a lot of food the morning of and then driving over, you can listen to it while you're cooking those deviled eggs that you should be making for your appetizers there, David. Which, by the way, smoked sausage, shrimp cocktail, cheese, perfect. Love that. We usually do that a lot at Christmas because we usually have like Christmas Eve people come over, so we do a lot of appetizers, right? Lots of hors d'oeuvres if you're fancy. But solid appetizers. Add the deviled eggs to your appetizer game. That's all I'm saying.
Good stuff. As always, my friend, great to see you. Enjoy your holiday, and we can't wait for the new episode of the Soccer for USPod. Enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch up with you on the flip side. Be good.
Quick PSA, John. If you need to check if you have a cooler big enough for your turkey. Do that today because you need to brine it on Wednesday. So do that today. Check that you have a cooler big enough for your turkey if you're going the brining route. Also, if it's not out of the freezer by now, good luck.
Yes, absolutely true. All right, be safe, my friend. Enjoy the deviled eggs. We'll see you around the corner. And there goes Bart. And that means we now get to focus on news of the day once again. At Soccer for USPod, the Soccer for US pod, and Bart Keeler at Bartimus Prime 19. So keep an ear out for the new episode coming out probably for your holiday listening on Thursday. We're also anticipating a new 3D from Drew Dickinson, who is also promising special guest stars. So we'll see what Drew has in mind for the new 3D, and we will keep you in mind also when it comes to the new Soccer for US pod coming up from Bart and Thomas and everybody over there at the Soccer for US pod. So that's the rundown with us. We're efforting a bunch of college coaches this week to talk about their matchups, things like that. And we'll see how many of them we can track down in the NAIA Division III, Division II, et cetera. So we'll keep an eye on all of those. We did have some activity in Division I on the men's side. A lot of the number one seeds got bounced. We'll talk about that more in depth tomorrow when KCD drops by in hour number 1. And we're also going to be efforting Keeler Hodges to talk about the USL Championship and the season in review when it comes to the USL Championship. So it'll be one more visit with Keeler Hodges on a weekly basis to find out how the USL Championship ended their season. And the players and the USL Players Association made their own statement as they were walking out in the processional at Tulsa for the championship game, and the national audience didn't see it. Inside the building, folks took a lot of pictures, but the national television audience did not see the pictures and the T-shirts that were being spirited by the players for the USLPA. So we'll get into a lot of those things with Keeler. We'll reach out to Keeler. Hopefully, he is now back from Tulsa in one piece, and we'll catch up with him about the USL Championship. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about this week with no show on Thursday. If it doesn't fit into the weekend of itself, what we may do is give you a bunch of 1v1s that you can listen to Thursday and Friday. We are going to have a Friday show because we got to promote and we got to preview the conference finals. We'll get into all of that with the guests that we have as well. So it's going to be Nino Torres on Friday, MLS on Friday, and trying to get the weekend squared away as well on Friday. No show Thursday. And so we'll have tape material throughout the day for you to listen to. Wednesday, once again, it's going to be Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. We'll see if Maddie Cruz can slow down to 33 1/3 RPMs, and she can join us either Tuesday, Wednesday late, and we'll go through all of those. And regular order on Wednesday looks like, like I said, and this is pending no one having to hit the road to discuss things with their families. So Tyler should be joining us Wednesday. Dylan hopefully joining us Wednesday, and I know that Nico is joining us Wednesday at 10:30. Since Thursday is none of us are going to be doing anything except heading to our places of interest and catching up with families and eating a bunch of appetizers and leaving a lot of turkey on the table. Tomorrow, once again, KCD should be joining us 9:15. And we will be catching up with Jason Stevens talking about the new PSR model in England. And we are going to be catching up with our friends in Toronto, one of the host cities for the World Cup 26. We're catching up with their front office, and that'll be available to us as well, either as a 1v1 or it'll be on Tuesday's programming as well in hour number 2. So, or both, who knows? So, and probably on the Best of SDH AM that you can pick up on the Odyssey app and the Off the Woodwork podcast section there as well at 92.9 The Game. All right, let's get you into the news of the morning. And Vinicius Jr. is not a happy man. He is not a happy man. TalkSport understands he is reluctant to extend his stay at the Bernabeu amid what he perceives to be a breakdown in his relationship with manager Xabi Alonso. And it is understood Vinicius does not feel Alonso is giving him a fair chance to showcase his talent. The frustration came to a head during the first El Clasico. You remember when he was taken off with about 20 to go, and he stormed down the tunnel only to come back when the two teams were fighting later. Also understood to be unhappy with his role and minutes. He has started 13 of the 17 fixtures across all comps, played the entire match just 5 times. Xabi Alonso has denied any hint of a rift between the two. If the situation deteriorates further, Saudi Pro League sides, the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote, looks like they're willing to pounce. Looks like Al Ahly is particularly interested, and they would be intrigued to pick up Vinicius, offering a 5-year deal with wages of £220 million, £30 million increase on Cristiano Ronaldo's salary at Al Nassr. Across the 5 years of the deal, it would net Vinicius Jr. a staggering €1 billion or £880 million. Vinicius' Real contract expires in June of 27, but should he continue to show reluctance to extend, the Spanish Giants may be tempted to cash in after the 26 World Cup. Vinicius Jr. could call Ivan Toney a teammate if he goes to Al Ahly. Also on Al Ahly's books is Riyad Mahrez. He will be 35 next February and could be making way for Vinicius Jr. to come in. Last July, TalkSport reported Saudi chiefs were prepared to launch a world record offer in the region of €350 million, which is a lot more. That's 1/3 more than what PSG paid Barca to sign Neymar back in 2017. Al Ahly is the likeliest of the Saudi Pro League clubs controlled by the PIF to land Vinicius. Also understood there is sentiment within the PIF and the Ministry of Sport that Al Ahly are, quote, owed the next superstar to arrive on their shores. Not on Toney and Mahrez, yes, they are stars, not on par with Ronaldo, Benzema, who's at Al Ittihad, and Neymar, who was at Al Hilal but has left to go to Santos. Madrid obviously would make a big profit on the £38 million they shelled out for him 8 years ago when he was 16 years old and crushing it at Flamengo. So that is so that is where you look at with that. Lou City assist leader Brian Ownby is retiring after a 14-year professional career. We'll pick that up more with Keeler when we catch up with him this week. And it appears that still Wilfred Nancy, according to Fabrizio Romano and our friends at Gimme Sport, Fabrizio Romano explaining a delay for Celtic appointing Wilfred Nancy as the new manager. Still expected to become, and this is from Dan Davis this morning over at GMS. Wilfred Nancy still expected to become Celtic's next manager despite a holdup in his appointment, according to Fabrizio Romano. Club have been locked in talks with the crew in their search for Brendan Rodgers' permanent replacement, and then he became the front runner pretty quickly. And there isn't any kind of Celtic panic when it comes to bringing Nancy over. And so for now, obviously, he's still in charge of the crew. Reports have indicated the delay in reaching an agreement is because of the compensation package that would be due to Columbus, which would drop in December, a stance that may irritate matchgoers. Fabrizio Romano addressed the situation in his GMS newsletter, saying that it's technical things, but the verbal agreement is in place, so the situation is currently considered under control. Martin O'Neill was placed in the interim charge after Brendan Rodgers and the board collided. And so it looks like Martin O'Neill will continue to be there until the time that Wilfred Nancy will be dropping in to be a part of everything there with Celtic. So Herculez Gomez likened Nancy to Luis Enrique, telling BBC, if I could get somewhere close to his brand, it would be Luis Enrique's PSG. Enrique's bases his philosophy off the interpretation of space, time, and movement. There are no set positions. Once again, we mentioned that when you see a graphic on the screen, that's just a graphic. It's not a fail-safe. It is not an absolute truth. Because if you looked at the graphics involving, say, Messi and friends and what their lineup looked like, nah, it wasn't a 5-3-2, really. As soon as the whistle blew, Alba's forward, Busquets is forward, 3 at the back, drifts into 4. There's a twist. Alba goes forward. Everybody slides over. Busquets goes back to help unless he's engaged in the play. So formations are a loose construct now. Don't get locked into the idea of, well, they play you see a graphic, they play a 3-5-2. Not necessarily 90 minutes and 100% of the time. Relacionismo, they say in Spanish. It's how you relate to a certain sector on the field and how you can advance and really consume your opponent in numbers. That's Wilfred Nancy. So that's how Herculez Gomez is likening Nancy to Luis Enrique. So right now, verbal is in place still, but you're looking also at the idea that right now, that's what you're staring at with Celtic. Rangers, on the other hand, they sacked the CEO and the sporting director 7 games into Danny Roll's time as manager at Rangers. So swift change in manager, replacing Russell Martin after 4 months. Club statement announcing that those two, the CEO and the sporting director, have left Ibrox, expressing their sincere gratitude and an unwavering commitment. Chairman and vice chair have already begun the search process, and until permanent hires are made, Director Fraser Thornton assuming the role of acting CEO. Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell are leaving. Responsible change is measured and steady. I'm biting my tongue on that one. Our first priority has been to improve the sporting performance, and that led to our decision to part ways with Russell Martin and bring in Danny Roll. Reasonable change. This is their quote in their release. Swear up and down, hand in the air. Responsible change is measured and steady. Does this mean that responsible change is happening now? With the 66 words that you used to fire your CEO and your sporting director? Firing Russell Martin to bring in Danny Roll? Is that measured and steady? Is that responsible change? Or is there responsible change starting now? I would like a clarification, please, Rangers. Danny has now started the process of improving on performing on the on-pitch performance. Patrick and Kev are both skilled execs and have delivered a lot for the club in their time with it. We've now had 6 months, so 6 months, I guess, is responsible time frame, since we became part of Rangers to assess the club's needs as well as to get to know Patrick and Kev a bit more. Simply put, When we think about what we need in both CEO and sporting director today, it's different than who we think Patrick and Kev are. We want people that align with the vision for the next chapter. I will not throw dirt on either of them. I think very highly of them, both on personal and professional levels. Just the reality club needs different things today than it did 6 months ago. And so they keep talking and keep going. Rangers are 4th in the Premiership, 9 points behind Hearts, 12 matches played. So that's where we are with Rangers and Celtic this morning. It's chaos, and let chaos reign because they're not on the top of the standings, and it is intriguing as well. So keep an eye on all of that. Now, let's take the tour really quickly. Let you know what else happened on the weekend. We'll go through scores once again. Tomorrow we'll spend a lot of time on college, and we'll catch up with Jason Stevens, and we'll see about the Toronto host city interview that we're doing later this afternoon and where that will end up on the network. So set your notifications. It's either going to be, probably will end up being Choice D, all the above, on the morning show at some point this week. Separate posting, and then later on in the week of the best of SDH AM. So the Toronto, what we're starting to do is catch up with all the host cities and find out how they're handling getting ready for the World Cup and the crowds and the audiences and things like that. Everything from airport to infrastructure to transportation, getting to and from the venue and what you're looking for, and all of those things. We're going to be covering all of that with as many of the host cities that we can put our hands on between now and the time the tournament starts. And that run starts with Toronto this afternoon, and we'll keep an eye on all of the other venues. We do have 3 other venues, 3 other host cities that are in the queue, and we're trying to figure out, okay, when can we catch up with each one of you? And we'll have those multiple times. We're going to catch up with them as the clock continues to go, and then get ready for the summer. So we're hoping to catch up with folks twice, like initially, and then an update, then after the tournament to do a bit of a postmortem. What did they learn? Those kinds of things. So we'll get ready for those. But Toronto's going to be the first one. We're catching up with them later this afternoon. All right. So what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We'll get into that today and let you know that you're looking at, I'm wondering how light a day it's going to be. 3 of the top seeds, by the way. Top 3 seeds, 7 of the top 9 fell in Division 1 in the women's side of the tournament. So we'll get into that tomorrow. So today, being in Espanol, it is the Turkish Super League at noon, Ligue 2 at 2:45. Fox Soccer Plus has Serie B at 2:30. The U17 World Cup semifinals, we've already had one in Austria and Italy. Brazil and Portugal are going on right now. Once again, that's on FS2. Monday Night Football, English is the Premier League, Manchester United and Everton. That's at 3 o'clock on USA. Being in Espanol simulcasting, Turkish Super League and the French Ligue 2. ESPN Deportes, Monday Night Football and La Liga at 3. Fox Deportes, Serie A at 12:30, Torino and Como. Telemundo simulcast the first semifinal from the U17 this morning. San Diego, Minnesota United, 10-12 is your kick from the Murph Dragon tonight. And you can listen to that. You can do the local option. You can listen to MLS Season Pass, watch MLS Season Pass. You can catch up with that there. ESPN Plus has La Liga at 3. NBCSports.com has a Premier League Monday Night Football at 3. Paramount Plus Serie A 2 matches, one at 12:30, Torino and Como. Sassuolo and Pisa is at 2:45. Now, college soccer on TV today. Second round, you've got a lot going on from yesterday. Third round in the women's tournament is Florida State knocking off Georgetown. Monday, you've got 3 matches left over in the NCAA women's tournament. TCU and North Carolina, and we know that KCD is going to be keeping an eye on that one at 2 o'clock. Vandy and LSU is at 3. Stanford and BYU is at 4. So NCAAsports.com or wherever you watch your college soccer, and you can keep an eye on it there. Life Universities, men's and women's, they've advanced. They're going to the finals site for play on December 1st. Truett McConnell is going to be playing at the final site on December 2nd. Georgia Gwinnett's men, they're going to be playing at the final site in the NAIA on December 1st as well. And Emory is going to be in Division 3. They are in the national semifinals on one end, and it's the deepest run that you've ever had in team history on the men's side. So 2 Final Four appearances in Division 3, hoping to catch up with Coach Greiner and Coach Patberg as we go there. And keep an eye on what's going on in your college tournaments. And if you missed what happened on the weekend, you can go and catch up with it over at the Red Clay Soccer Report. And that came out late last night. Once again, set your notifications there. And when that comes online, you can catch up. We've got all your highlights from Life, Georgia Gwinnett, Maddie interviews head coach Steve DeCoux. We have that interview as well. You've got Life and Milligan from the opening round. You've got Emory and the PKs where the men advance against Dickinson. We have early round highlights from the University of North Georgia when they took care of Anderson. And what matchup am I missing here? What was the other matchup that we got the highlights of? So it was UNG and Anderson, Life and Milligan, Truett and Cumberland University was the other one, and the Emory women. So highlights from 4 different schools as they continue their runs in the postseason for their respective college organizations, either the NCAA or the NAIA. That's going to do it for another round of SDH AM. Once again, tomorrow morning, 9:15, KCD is going to join us. Casey White's going to talk college, maybe talk a little NWSL afterwards, and we'll keep an eye on the situation with Trinity Rodman. Once again, she looked like she took a hard fall, and that the leg looked like it was going a direction it wasn't supposed to when she landed. So we'll keep an eye on Trinity Rodman and find out what's going on there, if there's any word at all. And we'll keep an eye on the NWSL and their battle to try and keep Trinity Rodman. It's going to be one of the storylines for the offseason. And we'll catch up with the colleges and see if we can line folks up as well. Once again, tomorrow, Jason Stevens talking about the new PSR rules that aren't going to be called PSR in the Premier League and in England, plus everything else that we have on the table. That's another go-round of SDH AM. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Let me say hi to everybody before we get out of here, by the way. David, morning. And the smoked sausage is always a strong play. Connecticut County sausage, definitely going to be something to stare at on Thursday as well. Morning Commando, yes, quick congrats for the 8th seed. Morning Jordan, negligible airframe go CSBC got blocked. Morning Jordan, morning Bart, morning Fork Card, morning Lokeville, good to see you. Morning David, and morning Jordan as well. So that's another go round of SDH AM. Back at it again, less than 22 hours. Since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning for Tuesday Thoughts as we carry you through the college, carry you through the news overseas, the economics of soccer, all the things as we are your soccer morning show here in the U.S. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platiel. Since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. Back at it again, less than 22 hours, 9:05 tomorrow morning. See you.